And that's going to be in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Well, I think we're getting settled in. Is everybody here? Everybody accounted for? Thanks for joining us today. Of course, here impromptu staff meeting, which was really important for us to get together and talk here. I feel like today's a big day. Today feels like a big day. Do you guys feel like today's a big day?
Yeah. I guess so.
Okay, good. Well, I love the enthusiasm. So I'm really glad. I got to say, first off, glad to be back here at Taco Bell. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind journey for me last couple of years. As you guys know, spent some time at Burger King, launched a few fantastic products over there. Put the spice in the chicken fries, a little jalapeno zing. Also managed to launch a little product known as the Mac and Cheeto, which I don't know if any of you caught, but it did quite well. It caused quite a media stir. But I'm glad to be back here, product development for Taco Bell. And I have some thoughts. But right now, I'm just going to farm it out for you. I want to hear a couple of things from you guys, a couple of thoughts that you might have. What in the last 2-3 months, I'll say last 6 months, how we go, last 6 months or so, can you think of a win that we have had here at Taco Bell? Okay, just anybody shout it out.
Okay, so you know how I had that idea of making a Doritos Locos taco, but instead of having meat inside the taco, having it outside? That didn't work. No, I was trying to wrap the taco shell in the meat, but unfortunately, when you pick it up, it all just fell apart, and then you're just left with a taco shell with lettuce and tomato and cheese inside.
Too crumbly. It was too crumbly.
Yeah.
Too crumbly. Okay.
Didn't work well.
Also wet. It was also wet.
Wet.
Yeah.
Okay. So things we don't like to talk about in fast food. Adjectives we prefer not to use: crumbly and wet.
Oh, it was moist.
It was moist. Okay.
Yes. Moist.
Okay. I don't know if that's better. Is moist better than wet?
My hand smelled like beef juices.
Okay. I don't know if that's quite is that the
my dog was happy though, because it was on the floor and it meant it's dog food.
That's true. Okay. So there's a secondary benefit where the product not only benefited the person who purchased it, but someone else.
I got it. Taco Bell, it's for dogs.
Are you you're pitching that as a slogan we should use?
Yeah, because his dog liked it.
Okay. All right. Let's throw that one up on the board, and maybe a little bit later we can see if anybody. But yeah, actually, let's hang on. Let's explore this a little bit. Taco Bell, it's for dogs. Is that a narrow? I don't own pets myself, but I have heard that people who own pets have different kinds of pets. Some people have the dog. Other people may have the cat. So I guess my concern is, does that work for more people or less people?
Maybe we could switch it. Taco Bell, it's for the birds?
Taco Bell, it's for the birds. Okay. I feel like what we're getting in this is a lot of specificity, which I like. How about one more time around the table? Taco Bell is for
probably everybody.
Can you put that on a t-shirt?
Probably. Yeah. I like that part.
Okay. Well, I'll trust you guys that you can put it on a t-shirt. So Taco Bell, probably good for everybody.
Probably.
And animals.
And animals.
Some animals.
Okay.
Some.
I think maybe there's some, we can hand that to a writer. Maybe he can, there's a syllable to shave, or maybe not. Maybe we need more syllables. What do you guys think?
Cows. Animals, but not cows.
Animals, but not cows.
That's just kind of mean.
Right. Well, hang on there. Isn't that the thing that Chick-fil-A does? They have something about cows.
Oh, right. That's Chick-fil-A. They got the
Yeah,
happy
okay.
cows. What about Taco Bell? Probably for everyone. And some select animals.
I think there is a smaller word we can use to describe the animals. What could be a word to describe animals in general that people own?
Fish.
Ooh, pets. Pets.
Pets. Yes, there we go. That's the word. Nice, brilliant. I couldn't, in my mind, retrieve that word at all. I think it's because it's a P word. And ever since I took a tumble down the stairs in 2007, things with P's just don't seem to come out too good.
I'm glad we don't put peas in our food.
Peppers.
Well, I think maybe a pepper isn't a thing we've done.
Pistachio.
Maybe. I don't think we should do anything with pistachio. I think that's a line. Maybe, yeah, maybe pepper. Oh, hey, speaking of peppermint, I was thinking of alternative ways to hold the stuff that goes inside of a taco because we've had so much success with the outside part of a taco and innovation there. And maybe flavors. Flavors? I don't know if peppermint is a flavor or not.
I have it. It's seasonal around the holidays, the peppermint taco.
Okay.
We crush up candy canes and put it on the outside on the shell. And then it could be like, it's, you know how there's an after dinner mint? This will just be your after dinner taco. It's like a normal taco, but with mint.
So do we put this on the dessert menu or is this in the do we put this in a combo on the menu?
Oh, it can go either way.
Either way. So a peppermint taco could go anywhere.
What if we put a taco in a cup?
Interesting.
It's the taco you can drink.
We could call it the cuppo.
The cup of taco. People
The
wake
taco?
up and they want a cup of Java, but now in the afternoon they could want a cup of taco.
Well, I think this is where that beef juice thing comes back into play, right?
Oh.
Taco Bell, beef juice, slurp it up.
Okay. All right. So we've got a lot of things going on. We have a slogan that somehow incorporates people and their pets, which is good. We have a cup o taco, which is that a soup or is that different?
It's a cup with a taco in it.
So is it a mini taco salad? So it's like a taco cup?
A cup stada?
Okay, here's the idea. You get like one of our cups.
Okay.
And then you get one of our tacos.
Yeah.
And then you put the taco in the cup.
Right.
Oh, so like you can eat it easier when you're driving. Should we have a special lid that just flaps open so you can bite?
So it's some sort of taco delivery device.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it delivers it to your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think we could make a big Pez dispenser that does that?
I think there might be a licensing issue, but we'd have to just talk to legal about that.
What if we paid an animal to bring your taco to you?
Okay, so now we're getting back to that pets thing.
Yeah, like what if a cow came up to your house and was like, I brought you Taco Bell? We'd have to teach them to talk.
I think I'm going to tie some of this together. What if we make a bowl for someone to feed their pet, and we put a sensor in the bowl, and we call it Cupo Taco Bowl?
What if we call
it when the
taco
dog
bowl?
eats out of the bowl, it automatically triggers an app that sends a taco to your house.
So you eat with your dog.
Yeah.
It's like family dinners all over again.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. We're bringing dogs and pets and all the things associated with dogs and pets and people together, and technology's involved. That means the young people will like it. I think we have a thing here.
Excuse me. Hi, Reggie from marketing. It actually we are not allowed to encourage people to feed their pets Taco Bell.
Okay, is there a reason why?
Well, it turns out Taco Bell's just not very good for you. And whereas people can make the choice to destroy their bodies internally themselves, pets cannot make that decision responsibly. And so we can't encourage people to, inflict that upon their pets.
God, Reggie, you ruin everything.
Okay, well, Reggie torpedoed the first half of this meeting, which is okay. But hey, let's get back to it. We got here, I believe we got here because of peppermint. We're talking about flavors of taco shell. More taco shell flavors. What can we do with taco shell? What can we innovate with taco shell? We got to do something there. There's something. Tacos are basically a circle folded. So it's a half circle. What else can be made of a half circle? What else can make a half circle besides, frisbees. So can we make a taco shell that's a frisbee?
No, because you can't eat it.
All right.
How about throwable tacos?
Coasters.
Tacos. Okay.
Coasters.
Coasters. Okay. So you get a taco and you use it as a coaster, or
no,
it's a coaster that
coasters are circles.
Okay. So bear with me here, guys. We all understand in the room that it's a circle folded in half, right? It's not just a circle.
Yeah, you fold the coaster.
You fold the coaster. When you say you fold the coaster, does that mean the person who buys the product folds the coaster, or the Taco Bell employee folds the coaster?
The employee.
The employee. So now, can you eat the coaster, or is it just you get a coaster? Is it like a commemorative issue,
no,
or
you can't eat a coaster?
Okay, you can't eat a coaster. Okay, so
what you need to put on the side, not edible.
Not edible.
The moon. Don't know. The moon's a circle.
Okay, right. I think we're getting a little far out there. Let's come back. We'll come back to the moon in a second, but I want to just come back. I'm going to throw this out to you guys. Let's start over.
I'm sorry, I was very
Taco
excited.
shell. It is very exciting. I'm glad to be back. You guys are great. You're all smart, and a lot of you wore clean shirts today, which I appreciate. So we have things that we make our food out of. Maybe we can make something out of a taco shell that's made out of something that we already have. So
we tried beef, and it got messed up.
Okay. So beef, a ground beef, you can't make that into a patty that's going to stick together.
How about the refried beans? That tends to stick to stuff.
Well, if we go back to what's his name's Cupo taco idea, then that might be a thing that could work. But we need something that's we can make flat, and it's going to kind of be contained, and you can eat it. So it's got to be flat, foldable, and contain. Flat, foldable, contain.
I got it. I got it.
All right, what do we do?
Okay. A taco shell.
Okay, yes, we need a taco shell.
You know what, Phil?
Stick with me, Phil. Hang on. Let's hang on. Phil, taco shells today are made of what?
Tacos?
No. Bill, you answer. Taco shells are made out of?
Well, first, I just want to say, Phil, you're such a chicken. You told me a great idea the other day. You said it should be made of lettuce, you chicken.
Oh, lettuce wrap. But here's the thing, guys. We all know nobody who cares about themselves goes to Taco Bell, right? Everybody there's no health-conscious people that wants that. But there's a word in there. What did you say again, Bill? What are some of the words you said?
He's a dirty, stinking chicken.
Chicken. Is chicken like ground beef? Can we do something with chicken?
We put it in quesadillas.
We do.
Sometimes we shred it, and sometimes we cut it up, and we charge a premium depending on what we do.
Hey, wait a minute. That Chick-fil-A place, what do they do with their chicken?
Sell it.
That's true. But what else? How do they make it? What do they sell it as?
I don't know. If we could unlock that secret, we'd probably be rich and not open on Sunday.
Well, they don't barbecue it and they don't grill it. They do. Well, I think they do grill it, but they don't. Don't they fry it?
Well,
they fry the chicken.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a chicken. I'm not sure if it's actually chicken.
Well, that's not for us to judge. I don't think, right?
But it's like flat.
We can take. Okay, it's flat. If it's flat, what can you do with flat things, guys?
Put
Throw
drinks
'em
on them.
like a frisbee.
You can throw them like a frisbee. Yes, you can put drinks on them, but you can fold them. Flat things can be folded.
Yeah.
And we fold corn tortilla. We fold it into the shape of a
Taco.
Quesadilla. A taco.
yes, taco. Right. Can we make a taco shell out of fried chicken?
You're mad.
I'm happy.
Okay, we've got happiness and we've got insanity,
It's-
and we all know that those are two of the magic ingredients to a Taco Bell winning item.
That's the crossroads that Taco Bell was built upon.
That's correct. That is correct. So good. We are hitting the right emotional tones that resonate with our audience. That's fantastic. So we have a chicken that is fried, and we've turned it into a taco shell. I just feel like fried chicken gets used a lot in food culture to advertise things. So to pitch our fried chicken taco shell taco, that's a lot of words. What can we gotta narrow that down. Gotta narrow that down.
What if we took all our clothes off and then people would pay attention to us?
I do think they would pay attention to us. I do.
Well, HR talked to you about that.
But hang on. We're just brainstorming here. All ideas are valid. All ideas are valid. We don't have to bring HR into the room.
Hi guys,
Well-
Reggie here again from marketing. Just want to be
damn it. Okay.
very clear. You are not going to be allowed to be naked to sell a taco. Okay?
Okay. All right. Fine. That's okay.
Okay, but nudity sells.
Nudity sells. Sex sells. So
Can we
naked and taco. Naked.
can we take the clothes off of the taco?
Of course. I don't know if they wear clothes, but maybe if a rapper was like that. So what are we left with there?
A naked taco.
Brilliant. Gentlemen, we have done it. We have created the naked taco.
It's glorious.
All right. I think that does it. I think we could all go to lunch.
What should we have for
hi,
lunch?
guys. Reggie here again.
Son of a gun.
This was
Okay.
technically your lunch, and you are all technically late for work.
Okay, fine. All right. Well, I've got some email to answer. I appreciate everybody's time. Once again, good to be back. This was a productive meeting. Reggie, if you could do me a favor and take some, I don't know, just go to the other side of the building. That would be good for the team. Everybody, go back to your desks and try to put on a bright face, because you guys today invented the naked taco. Congratulations.
Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 214. My name is Ben Bumhofer, and with me, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
Hello, Ben! It's Thursday night here in Azeroth, throwing everybody off their game, but here it is nonetheless, and we take a seat once again at the infamous round table. You're here, I'm here, but that's not all, Ben, because we have a returning face that it feels like we haven't seen in forever. It is my great pleasure to say, hey, Mick.
Hi, Ben and John. Glad to be back on Azeroth Roundtable. Thanks so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Well, of course, we're always happy to have you. I mean, the last time we saw you was BlizzCon, and before that, it was, gosh, way too long.
Way too long. A long time. A lot of things have happened.
Yes, quite a few.
A lot of
There's
things have happened.
new food items at Taco Bell, for instance.
They came,
That
they
is
went.
correct.
They were actually good.
Oh, I never got a chance to have one. They were here for like a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I felt that I was surprised that the naked taco didn't like become a long-term thing.
Me too,
We
actually.
got one glorious month with it.
Yeah. Do you think that that's their version of a McRib sandwich? That they're like, we're only going to give this to them for like a couple of months out of the year.
I think
Maybe.
probably. Yeah. Everybody wants to have that elusive, food item, that food stuff that people chase and obsess over. Mine was the Angry Whopper from Burger King, which was a glorious, beautiful thing that came around every year, and then
It was
just
so
stopped.
angry.
It was
So
so good.
angry.
It was so angry, so good. But what are you gonna do? Sometimes food things come into our lives and leave us tragically early.
Yeah,
That's true. It's very true. I agree with that. I agree with that.
but I was just gonna say enough about food. Mick, it's been so long since we've talked to you. I just gotta ask, what have you been doing in WoW? Because I miss these chats.
Well, I've been not a great World of Warcraft player, but
It's okay. You're talking with John too. He
I can say I have played the World of Warcraft recently, and I dabble back in, but I'm just playing super casually. When a lot of people at work, we all really got into it for a little while, and really there was like talk of raiding and all kinds of craziness. So there was a little of like, oh, do I have the energy to come back and do this stuff again? Which I unfortunately, that's the thing about WoW. It's like you got to put in the time, and if you don't put in the time, you don't get to do the super fun stuff at the end. And so I'm in that boat of just being jealous of everybody else who's out there raiding and breaking into tombs of Sargerasuses and all that stuff. So
it's interesting. This is actually the second time I've heard this from somebody today. This feeling of I missed the boat on a couple of things this expansion, and now I feel like I'm just too far behind to get into it again. That's really curious to me because as Ben joked about, I don't know what he meant by that comment. John doesn't play WoW. I don't make it into the game as much as I did, but I still feel like somehow I'm still not ahead of the curve, but not super far behind either. Do you guys feel like WoW has a problem with staying relevant and staying caught up with the content, or do you think it's maybe just more of a perception type thing?
Well,
go ahead, Ben.
God, it's tough because I would say between the three of us, I've probably been the most consistent in playing. So I've rated each week, gone through, I've worked on artifact power, knowledge, all that stuff, and everything. And this is the first week ever since I got flying, like on Saturday or something. It wasn't very long ago. That I feel like I'm starting to drop behind, which is the weird thing because so I got my flying, I was all happy about that and everything, and then I wasn't logging in every single day to do the broken short quests. And now talking to like Huns or Tet, and they're like way ahead of me in rep in artifact power and things like that, and it's only been a few days. So like having that feeling when I'm like actively participating is kind of a weird thing. And the fact that I've actually been trying to kind of work on my alts, my mage as well, it's a little weird to be super far behind on her kind of, and a little bit on my main. And I don't know, it's just it's like they put this plethora of stuff in there and then slowly released it, and if you don't keep up with that, then it's almost like just insanely daunting trying to catch up.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I think that what happens is if you fall behind, right, or you never start at the top of expansion, whatever that is. But if you fall behind, then or you come back, or maybe you read an article, or someone posts a thing, or something interesting about World of Warcraft crosses you, and you go, oh, I want to jump in and I want to get to that. You're at your second or third patch into an expansion, and you haven't really done much since the 7.1 or something like that, and then you decide, oh, I want to get back into it. It'll feel a little bit like I'm pretty far away from all that stuff. And I think that players can perhaps get overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that they feel they have to do, but whether or not that's a reality, because WoW as we know it tends to build a version of catch-up mechanic into it in order to allow you to do that, and they've done that with this particular expansion as well. I think it's just a matter of, I feel like for this particular expansion, given the level of changes that were made to a lot of things, and how certain things like artifact power, for example, are much more important but have never been important before, I think it even makes it even a little bit more daunting for players, because it's like, what the hell is artifact power? Why is that important? And so when you are faced with an expansion that has a lot of changes and a lot of content, I think perhaps maybe a few people could get lost. But I don't think that should be a deterrent. I think that the reality is that you either, WoW as a game, you got to put time into it. And if you don't have the time, then you're not able to get as much out of it as someone else who, makes World of Warcraft their primary game.
Yeah. No, I understand. And John, since you're kind of coming back and trying to play catch up and everything like that, have you found it like really impossible to keep up on things like artifact power and everything else?
I haven't. At least I don't think I'm that far behind. I mean, right now the way my character, or where my character is at, is I'm about to get another. I think I'm about maybe 20% left to go till I get my next point, which will be, I think, my third, maybe just my second point in the second of the new traits that we unlocked with 7.2. So you get the 4 new traits, or at least that's what we got. And then so I unlocked the first one, I put my first point in the second one, and then I think this will be either the second or the third point going into that one.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not super far behind. I mean, I know that there are people further than that. It doesn't seem hard to me to be way ahead of that curve and be significantly further than I am, but I don't feel like I'm insanely far behind or insanely underpowered, especially given the level of play that I've put into it, which is I've been logging probably, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 hours a week maybe on WoW.
It's not too bad.
It's not certainly not what it was, but it's not terrible. I mean, especially considering how split my time has been across other things. But I'm having fun with it. I've been enjoying 7.2. I certainly see where people who are being critical of it are coming from, but it's also given me things to do. I said today that for me, personally, this feels like good content, but maybe not the most engaging content. Because what I have found is that I enjoy playing the 7.2 stuff when I've got something else on, something else running, and it's like my comfort zone for gaming. Like, I'm going to just kind of play it, and it's just going to be something that I do while I'm doing other things. And that feels really good. But I would say when Legion first launched, it was engaging content. Like, I was all in. I wouldn't have had something else on. I wanted to hear the music and the voice work, and I needed to pick up on the story, and I needed to read every bit of the quest text, and I was really engaged. And I don't feel like this is maybe hitting me on that level, but I'm still having fun, killing some time watching a new TV show on Netflix or something while I'm doing it.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because that's something that I have almost always done with WoW. If I'm not leveling the first time through something or whatever, if I'm just out doing the chores or the daily quests or world quests or whatever, it's something that I've always done. Just either have a movie on or a show, or listening to a podcast or something along those lines. So I wouldn't exactly say that it's a bad thing, but I do have to agree it is not the most engaging thing, because you don't have to put your full focus into what's going on with it.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, if you kind of want to get an experience that I think keeps you grounded and makes you in that place where you're like, I gotta go in every single day and I gotta play, then you have to put in the time to get to that place, right? Because if you're and there's like 2 or 3 experiences where that's the case. Either you're kind of doing you're either doing PvP at a high level, or you're raiding at a high level, or even just a casual level. You still got to put in the work to get you there, right? And I think what Blizzard is doing really well, and I think they did better than they have ever done with this expansion. And trust me, I have had this debate at work a lot of times of what's the best expansion and what expansion is better than Legion at this point. In terms of launching. And I think that they are doing a really good job of launching their expansions and giving people really content that people seem to really get excited about at the start. But, what kind of begins to creep in a little bit, I think, for players is those who don't want to necessarily maybe raid once or twice a week, or doesn't want to, put in the time to be on an arena team or whatever it is that doesn't have that, like, I've got to be there for my team, I got to be engaged, I got to do the thing, and I'm really in it because I want to down the boss this week or whatever it is. That makes it really hard for that person, I think, to always find an identity once the expansion wanes and you've kind of gotten to your first level cap, and maybe you start to go through this. And that's, I think, a symptom of just where Warcraft is as the game that is, as how it's designed. Like that, unless you kind of put some time and energy and commitment into it, you can find yourself going, well, what the heck am I supposed to do here?
Yeah, it's kind of like maintenance, but you need to have something to kind of strive for in order to, re-log in and keep that going and, be engaged with it.
Yeah. And if you've only got like an hour at a game a night, do you really want to, not a lot of people are going to say, oh, I want to do a maintenance game. They may want to say, like, I want to get my most bang for a buck. And Blizzard then, brilliantly offers you at least two other games, right? Where you can go in and have an intense thing happen. And you can maybe get 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 matches in, depending on whether or not you play Overwatch or you play Heroes of the Storm. So it depends on what you want that gaming experience to do. That the adrenaline rush can hit you harder in, say, Heroes or Overwatch that you would get out of raiding, right? And that's the thing with Warcraft is, for someone who really wants to game and doesn't have a lot of time, Blizzard offers them something else that they can go play and still stick with Blizzard's ecosystem and have a good time.
Yeah, and I think that's been an interesting thing for me too, which is Blizzard and World of Warcraft is notorious for gated content. And for some people that's a super dirty word, and for some people that means longevity to the game. And it's weird because it's one of those things where I see both sides to that argument. Because I understand that if you give people, say, 4 weeks worth of content and you just put it out there and they can engage in it and they blow through it in 4 weeks and you don't have more content coming for, another 3 months, people are going to be burned out and say, well, this doesn't feel like anything. Like, there's nothing here. Why are you guys dropping the ball? There's nothing here for us anymore. Whereas then sometimes if you gate it, you have people and you spread it out over that 3-month period, you have people come into the game and go, man, there's just like nothing to this. It's like, okay, yeah, I did a quest for Illidan, and I guess I'll be back next week to do another quest for Illidan. And it ends up feeling a little light on that end, or it can be frustrating. I only have X amount of time to play in a given week, and I'd like to just keep going, but I can't because you've decided to put this gate up in front of me. So it's this very difficult problem where I can see both sides having validity, right? They both have their good side and they both have their problems. Yeah. And I don't know how you walk that line. I think they're doing the best job that they probably can, but I also think that does make it hard to make it feel like you're putting out a bunch of content really solidly if you want to gate that content and kind of sparse it out piecemeal, which I think even in their Q&A today, they said one of the bigger problems why it seems like there's so little content is they put in a bunch of class content, which means if you're only playing one class, you're only seeing one bit of the content that they put out, whereas for them, that was multiplied across every class in the game.
Yeah, but keep in mind, though, in fairness, that's what players were clamoring for going into this expansion was, even before people knew how much class identity was going to play into the overall design of the expansion, people were looking at, like, back in Mist, the Warlock Green Fire quest, and going, why won't you do that for everyone? So people were asking for that kind of tailored experience that would feel unique to their own player experience, as opposed to this big thing that everyone would go and do, right? And so they've given people that experience, but they can't give people a bunch of that experience per class. Yeah. And that's the that's the challenge. But I also think that, I guess the question is, I don't know if they're making, I don't think they're making the wrong choice in how they're delivering content to players. I think that the game is the game, and I think at this point now more than ever, it's a game where you can put in a bunch and you can get a bunch out of it. And if you can't put in much time, I think even a player like myself can still log in and play for an hour or two a week, and I can still feel like I did something and I had a good time, if that makes sense. And I think for some players where WoW begins to work as you get older, and longer in your career, is it does fill that space where you're just like, I don't think I'm up for, grinding out ranked play in whatever MOBA game I want to play. I don't feel like I'm up for that tonight. I just kind of want to chill and do something. And WoW fits that bill, right? And if you're somebody that's, in it to win it, and you're a lifelong player of World of Warcraft and you just love it, like, you're getting, I think, some of the best content you've ever received.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, those class quests are something that are and have been completely spectacular.
And they're hard too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, I think that's the cool thing that I appreciate is that Warcraft's kind of going like, hey, we're going to punish you a little bit now. And I think that players undervalue challenge in general. Like, it's under-recognized. And I think when you make things hard on players a little bit, and you say, like, here's the brass ring you need to get to, I think players, they go for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, look at the success of a game like Dark Souls, that series that's based almost purely on punishing the player.
Yeah. Or Breath of the Wild. That's just a huge phenomenon that's been blowing up lately. And I'll tell you, that game's not easy. You die a lot.
Yeah.
And it's Zelda.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that, given the experience I've had in the last 8 months, the thing that I have learned is now more than ever, players are valuing that experience. And I think that there was a time where that experience was undervalued too. Mm-hmm. So, and I think WoW early on had that experience, right? Like, it was maybe too punishing. It was too hard to raid. It was too hard to get to the content. Like Nax version 1 only had 1% of the player base or whatever it was play it, or whatever, that kind of stuff. So it was maybe too hard, but players still want to get invested, because that failure is what kind of tends to drive players to try and suck it up and get through it and go to the next thing. I think that's one of the reasons why Overwatch, for example, and it's one of the reasons why Heroes 2 and Hearthstone are popular, is because they have a certain degree of punishment. You make one miscalculation, you may have cost your whole team the match. In Hearthstone, you make one bad card play, you will lose your match, and it's your fault, right? You drop maybe a level down your rank. So I think that is good to give back to players, not just, I'm going to log in and just kind of wander around and do some stuff and collect my gold and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's interesting levels of difficulty too, because there's mechanical difficulty, which is kind of what we're talking about, which is, this is challenging. I have to put in effort. I have to work hard. I have to keep trying, and I have to triumph over this. But then there's also, sometimes the difficulty, and this is probably the difficulty that I think WoW was smart to weed out, but I think they can bring that mechanical back, which is the hurdles to get into content. Getting 40 people together to do a raid is very rewarding. It's challenging, but it's not challenging on this raid is difficult. It's challenging on it's very difficult to corral 40 people and get them to cooperate.
Yeah. And you're not going to, by the way, you're not going to get that's a moment in time too.
Right.
Like, let's be real. When WoW had 40-person raid and it was really successful, WoW was the only game in town for a lot of PC gamers. And today that's not the case. If a lot of players have a lot of options now, there's bigger fish out there in the ocean, and so you're not going to be able to secure that time commitment, because I'm going to show up an hour and hang around waiting for us to get together to go do this. Like, that, you can't do that. Like, a person would be like, I could play two, I can get in 5 Overwatch games in that amount of time. You know what I mean? So you're not the attraction that you once were. So you gotta lower that threshold to get in, but you can't lower it too much, because then it doesn't feel like you've accomplished anything when you play it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where, talking about difficulty, I like that there's all those different tiers of rating. Like I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, John, whenever it was, where I talked about how, my raid team, just a normal raid team, we beat Gul'dan, we felt super accomplished and everything. And that's the level that we're at for that. And that's perfectly great. Yes, I've had people say to me, oh, well, that doesn't count because it wasn't heroic, or that doesn't count because it was mythic. I'm like, well, first of all, F off. Second of all, no, it counted us, because that's what we played. That's the thing that we're doing. Now, when I'm looking at going into, a more difficult challenge or something like that, look what's been going on with the Mage Tower. You can tell that there are people who are, very, very happy to get that artifact appearance and go through and do the challenge that the quest offers. And then there's some who are just kind of complaining because, it's not being handed to them. So do you think that Blizzard is going to have a big challenge of finding the right balance of, adding more challenge in there to a fan base who's kind of used to having things handed to them?
I mean, I think they made the right call with the Mage Tower. And this is, we've talked a little bit about this, and it has been an interesting thing for me because getting that artifact appearance has been one of my goals since they announced Legion. They showed that artifact, the one you get for the Mage Tower for rogues, with the announcement of Legion, and I fell in love with that design and that transmog. It's been a goal of mine for this expansion. And now I'm looking at a fight that, I'm a bit realistic about where my skill is with WoW. I'm not the worst player, but I'm not the best player. I know where my DPS is on the charts. I fluctuate towards the upper middle, we'll say, typically is where I'm at. I'm not going to be the people that are carrying the team, but I'm going to be on the high end. I don't think I'm in a position to take that on just yet, but the decision they made with the Mage Tower was that eventually it would get easier as your eye level went up and up and up, which means eventually people who don't want the insane challenge that it presents right out the gate, they'll eventually overpower it and get it. Like, you'll get there. You may not have access to it right now, but you will get there someday. And I think that's probably the best way for WoW to handle difficulty. I think if you want to put in the time and the effort and the work, getting something early is a perfectly acceptable road to go down. And then, as it gets easier, as you overpower it, you can go through it. That's what made running old dungeons by myself so much fun later on in life was, I didn't have the time or the team or whatever to do this back in the day, but I can do it now, and I can do it by myself, and it presents this neat little challenge by myself to go in and give the effort into. And that was also its own little fun reward and challenge in and of itself.
Yeah, and that's something that I continue to do is, run old content to see if I can, and also, try to get old mounts or, things that, drop so rarely that, it's content that I enjoy doing and everything like that. And, when I went through Mogashan Vaults, and I still haven't beaten it because the last two bosses are a little hard to juggle with all the ads and everything, but yeah, maybe I can now. I haven't been in there in a while. But, when I was able to beat Algalon the first time, because there's a mount that drops there that's really cool that I want to get, I felt elated. I'm like, I can do this. This is amazing. Just walking out and having fun. And now that my item level is even higher, I just kind of walk in, punch it a couple times. I'm like, I'm done now. And, having that sense of accomplishment and stuff is still there for me, just because, I rated it when it was, the actual only content to raid, and it was challenging. And now I see this really cool thing that I can do and have fun with it at the same time.
Right. And there's not many other games that will give you that experience. There's not really any other ones. I mean, you have such a depth of content. You have such, you can get to the point. And when I was doing TSZ, and Alt and I would talk about this as well. Like, you can find stuff in the game to do that is your own experience. It's not like the one that Blizzard has laid out before you. And I think that's what the Blizzard developers time and time again have said. That's what we love about this game, is when the players go out and find a way to play that we never would have intended or found. And there's no way that when everyone was designing this game, they're like, and you know what? In 5 expansions, they'll go back and play they'll solo these raids. They will get these things. Yeah. No one would have thought that. They were just trying to get to the next thing. But as players, you have that opportunity to kind of figure it out and make it for yourself and get there. And I think that there's two things, because I think the one thing you're talking about, John, is you started as asking is, well, players now, maybe some players feel that it's too far behind and they can't catch up, and therefore they can't play. And then there's that other player who kind of gets frustrated and angrily quits because they don't know what to do next, right?
Yeah.
So there's that player too that is looking for answers and is kind of waiting for, and that's so tough then to balance as a developer to say, you have so many different types of players who want different types of experiences out of World of Warcraft because it is so many different types of games within it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're designing for, Overwatch, no offense, the game is what the game is. You know what I mean? I mean, it's this team against this team, and there's objectives, and we can kind of mix that up a little bit. Maybe introduce a new hero every once in a while, but for the most part, it's the type of player that's going to play Overwatch is expecting to do one thing: go in and shoot and kill and try and win.
Yep.
And that's that experience. And they're sure they want a little variety in that experience, but for the most part, they're not coming to Overwatch to say, "Oh man, I wish I could get a more fulfilling profession experiance out of Overwatch."
That'd be the worst.
You're going into it, I want to get play the game, and I want to be on that score screen at the end, and I want to get loot crates, and that's what I want to do when I play Overwatch. And it's a very specific type of experience that provides enough variance within the gameplay that it doesn't feel repetitive. That's the trick with that game.
Yeah, the only way that you get a good crafting experience in Overwatch is by playing Torbjorn and just build turrets.
It's a pretty good crafting experience, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. You hammer it, it's good.
It's good. Yeah, you don't run into people going into Overwatch and going, they're balancing around this PvP game is really ruining my PvE experience in Overwatch.
Right. Yeah.
Although, I don't know, if you play that PvE challenge, some of those heroes are really tough to use.
Sure. Yeah, and the PvE is great, and that also does bring in another audience, but that's a fun event when you think about WoW. I mean, even within the realm of just PvE, if you exclude everything else, there's people that are there for different reasons within that. You've got raiders, you've got people who just do dungeons, you have people that just want to do content solo, you have people that just want to see the story, you have people that love dailies, you have people that hate dailies. Then you add PvP elements. Some people like battlegrounds, some people like arena, some people want open world battlegrounds and just want world PvP. And that's just all within the purview of just that one part of the game. Like, I don't ever, we play armchair developer all the time, but I don't ever envy the situation that Blizzard is in by having a game that caters to so many different play styles, and has to try to keep everybody as pleased as possible, because it's just not something you can do.
And I mean, think about all the stuff that they've added since then, new professions, pet battles, all the different changes that they've done to the auction house since, the very beginning. And there are people who log in just to do the auction house. That's their entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Some people log in just to do pet battles. That's their entire game. And, it's one of those things where, are we getting to a point where Blizzard could actually add another aspect to the game in? Or do you think they're starting to spread themselves a little too thin?
Well, I think they would acknowledge that by saying, yes, we have done that. And this is why certain things make it from one expansion but don't make it into the next expansion. They just kind of go, no thanks. We'd rather give you something that makes this expansion unique, and whether or not that makes it into the next expansion, we don't care. But we need something that's gonna set this expansion and this experience apart, and they've done it with this one, and they did it with the one before and the one before that.
And they've given us a little hint that I'm worried about. I'm sure other people will be ecstatic about, because again, diverse audiences. But during the Q&A today, they were very clear. They said, hey, like I was saying earlier, a lot of the development has gone into these classes, and people said, well, is that going to be something that continues forward? And they said it's a part of Legion, and there's a good chance that might be gone for the next expansion, the big focus on unique class identity and all of that. That's a real bummer for me, because that was my favorite part of this expansion.
Yeah.
That's the part that stuck out the most, and I don't want to judge a game based on something that hasn't been announced or hasn't been talked about and we know nothing about yet. But that's a perfect example right there of, here's an aspect of the game that they really nailed that for me is super important, for others maybe not, that may or may not continue. I mean, Ben, you love pet battles, and it's gotten varying degrees of love depending on the expansion since it got added.
This expansion has given us more since pet battling came in, so I'm pretty happy with that.
But I mean, that's also the point, is sometimes it'll be a focus and sometimes it might not be. And the game continues to grow and grow and grow each expansion. I do wonder, is there ever a future where they try to rein it in maybe a little bit more severely than they have in the past? I mean, let's look at this real quick, because this was something I was thinking about today and it fits this example perfectly. Legion has a very big class focus. If they ever put a new class in the game that starts from level 1, what happens when that class goes the level through Legion's content? Are they going to go back and add artifact weapons for that class? Probably not. Are they going to get their own new unique class hall? Probably not. Does that mean any new class that gets added is going to start at whatever the current level is? Maybe. Does it mean we're never going to get a new class again? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of questions about it, but I was thinking about that today and I was like, man, that's one little thing that we're used to them doing, adding a new class, that just one expansion completely derails in a weird way.
Yeah. But I also would say that, to answer your question, I would say no. I mean, I don't think that there's ever a time in which they pare back unless the player base itself is not giving them the financial incentive to continue to support the same size team.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I don't think that we're hearing that from Blizzard right now. I mean, we're not hearing anything about player base anymore, and I'm glad that we aren't. I think that they're making every indication that what they want to do is try and make these expansions as unique as possible. And I think that they've gone on. I think they do know this, that when they don't give you something like a new race or a new class or an expansion, it feels a little bit like a letdown, right? Mm-hmm. Like they do know that, and that's kind of happened to us before. So I think that, this rotation, for example, the next expansion would theoretically be the one where you'd see a new race of some kind. That would be up again, and that would be something that they would put a lot of development time into. That they would have put that same level of development time into Demon Hunters in this last expansion. So that's, I think, a question that players and Blizzard figure out together, which is, do we want to keep kind of reiterating on what we already are doing, or do we want to offer really brand new and exciting experiences that we haven't ever offered before? And that's the challenge, because something's always going to get cut, because that's just the way that it is. Not everything can be done in the time that you want it to. Yeah. And it's okay. I think what is interesting to see if they could ever do is offer you something really big and interesting in the middle of an expansion. That's something that I think that they've yet to really pull off. They've given us really wonderful tech in the middle of expansions, like way back in the day, Looking for Group. That was given to us in the middle of Wrath of the Lich King. That was a real big game changer. And it was not a small thing that they delivered, but it wasn't a content thing either, right? So it was a piece of tech that they were able to deliver, and it worked out really great. What they haven't really, I think, delivered to players is something to the level of a class, something to the level of artifact weapon play, or I'm going to apologize in advance, something like a garrison that is big and has a lot of content in it, and you see it at like 8.3 or 8.2. They've never done that before. They've always kind of said, these are our big things, and here they all are. And I think that's also part of why, as expansions kind of as they kind of age, there's nothing that big that comes out that you get with that expansion. I think that's why expansions are so exciting. It's like, we maybe get a new class, we maybe get a new race. We got this cool new gameplay thing that we don't even know what it is yet, but it sounds really super awesome. And we got a new continent, and we got all this new stuff, and there's new models, and and you get all this stuff in the expansion. And what they've never done is say, hey, 8.3, how about a new race, everybody? In this expansion, you're going to discover this particular race, and you're going to go through this quest line, and then you're going to unlock them as a playable race in World of Warcraft in the middle of the expansion. something of that size delivered in the middle would potentially address, but I think the way that their dev cycle works, they don't have the ability to do that because right now they're already developing the next expansion.
Right.
So,
okay, so I've got answers to both of these, or an answer to both of these. I don't know, whichever way you want to go for it. And I am actually like super hopeful in this now because, well, of course, everything that we come up with on the show is just, super fun and would be really great if they could do, which who knows, logic to the wind and everything like that. So it'd be great if they added, new classes and everything like that. I have a feeling that because John, I never thought about, no order hall through Legion if, someone's going to be leveling through that or something. I think that every class, if they do add a new one, is probably going to be a heroic class. Because, I mean, it just kind of makes sense at this point because new character, they want to make sure that you can play with your friends, that you're up right there with everything. I think, just from experience and seeing what they've done with this expansion and kind of the previous one, I don't think that they're going to try and get anybody to level a new class from scratch and go all the way from the beginning again. Because the restrictions that they have on the new class is, hey, by the way, you need to have a character at this level in order to start this class. So you've obviously gone through this whole entire stuff. You have a base knowledge of the game. It's kind of what they did with Death Knights. They, completely changed it with monks, but that was a race class combo thing. So, who knows? But what would be awesome is if we start, 8.0, whatever it is. We go through, we're working on stuff. There's no new classes, no new races, anything like that. We go through 8.1, 8.2, and we're coming up against whatever the big bad is, the big challenge, and we're just destroyed. We go through this quest line, and it unlocks either a 4th spec or a hybrid class. And therefore, at that point, you have something that you can start working on, something new, something that is, a technically a new class, whether it's healing on a mage, which I've always been a big fan of and would love if that could finally happen, or
it's healing
something
fire.
like, yeah, exactly, or mystical energies and stuff. I actually threw this out in raid last night, like some sort of chrono mage where they're actually reversing your health so that it goes back up, as opposed to like just giving you healing power. Anyway, long story, doesn't matter. But having some sort of extra added boost or expansion or something that you have to get through quest wise and story wise to make it make sense, as opposed to it's just right there at the beginning of the expansion. I think that something along those lines could actually turn out to be pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I think listening to what both you and Mick said, that's stuff that would get me excited. I mean, in the early days of WoW, I think one of the biggest things that I remember and take away from that time was that every patch felt like it could be anything. Who knows what it'll be? Like, there were no set expectations of like, well, this is going to be a raid patch and this is going to be a this patch. It was like, when they said we're going to talk about what the new patch is, your mind exploded because who knows what it could be. It could be a whole new game as far as we all knew when it came out. And I would love to have them surprise me in the middle of a expansion. I mean, you can look at Mists of Pandaria as a prime example. The idea behind the monks was that in Pandaria, they had all their weapons taken away and they had to learn to fight with either their fists or what they did have access to, which was usually like gardening equipment and tools. And you can see us going there and having a story develop as you go through Pandaria where they say, well, we can teach you how to be monks, and you unlock it in the middle of the expansion, like Mick was saying, and that could have been a patch. Like, that could have been, hey, we're going to unlock the monk story, like in patch whatever. And that would be a cool surprise right in the middle that's, kind of gated content if they come right out and say, hey, we're adding monk at BlizzCon when they're doing all the new things, and then the game launches and you're like, where's monk? And they're like, oh, you got to wait for a patch. That tends to make people a little angry, so I do think you need to surprise them a little bit with it.
Right. But I think in this particular thing, what they're betting on is that the story that they're trying to take players on is the compelling motivator, right?
Yeah.
And they're laying it all on the line, folks. Like this is like we've always debated like what's the end of World of Warcraft look like, and a lot of always folks say, well, I guess taking down Sargeras, and I'm like, it doesn't look like you're too far from that right now. So maybe that isn't what would wrap this up. I really think that what'll be interesting to them is that they're capitalizing or they're cashing in on a lot of these long-standing kind of theoretical villains and what they would be like, and we're now starting to see it all kind of come to light. So the challenge, I think, for Warcraft going into their next expansion will not just be what game mechanic can they offer, how can they take a new class and make it interesting, or a new race. It's whether or not they've got a story that in the tank that they think players are going to resonate with. Because right now, when they kind of go from, I think, away from what they're known for, or what I would say falls into that core kind of origin lore of Warcraft, which is either the Legion or something else, when they don't have something like that big to go with, when they try something brand new, like, hey, we're going to do Mists of Pandaria, it doesn't quite have the same resonance that, say, maybe Legion has had or Wrath of the Lich King has with players. So that's going to be their trick, is to figure out what is going to be the big motivating factor for players to check out the story that comes with the next expansion. Because this story, to me, even on the outside, like I look at it and go, wow, they've got some really cool stuff happening with Legion.
Yeah.
And, good on whoever is kind of guiding that team is doing a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually, honestly, if you wanted to say, John, we're sick of you complaining, which a lot of you have, and we want you to narrow down, you get one thing to be upset about from now on, that's actually is the story. And it's kind of a backwards, it's a kiss and a slap, because the story has been so good in Legion that during the beginning, I was in 100%. I was invested. Let's go. And then when you hit the end and that feed goes from a flood of story to just the slowest drip feed known to mankind, where I'm constantly wondering, what is Sylvanas doing right now? What is Greymane doing? Oh, I guess he's standing at a grave. I guess he's okay. What's going on with Andu? Oh, there he is. There's him. But where's Magni, and where's all these characters that you set up in the beginning? What are they all doing? Because I'm invested in all of their stories, and now all of a sudden it's just like, well, it's not the story we're telling. We're talking about Suramar right now. And I just want to like sweep everything off the table and say, I don't care about Suramar. What's going on with the things you told me about at the beginning? It's actually kind of turned a little bit for me, where it's just like, I want to know more on that story so bad that every time more content comes out and it doesn't push that story forward, or does just the minorest that pushes forward, it's frustrating to me as a player.
Well, then, okay, so look at it this way. We have this big push of, gotta defeat the demons, have to stop the Burning Legion and all that and everything. If other story did crop up that wasn't that part of that main focus and main goal of the expansion, like let's say it was an Ulduar kind of situation. Now, I'm not saying make Ulduar again, because, that's what everybody always seems to want that. But where it's like just kind of a total break and, like screech to a halt and go down the side street for a little while. Do you think that would work as well when they've built up the Legion into this just huge, big, bad thing? I mean, it's not like it's Kata where Deathwing just kind of flies around every now and then and we don't really do much until the very end.
But I think
this is something where really, because it's been presented at least that we're pushing against the Legion this entire time.
I disagree. I think they dropped the ball with Legion. Up till now, it was, Legion's a big threat. They're killing all our heroes. This is the worst. They're invading Azeroth. This is the worst invasion. Okay, why don't you go hang out in the peninsula and maybe you'll go to hell for a little bit, and oh look, here's some dragons. You should probably go into the Emerald Nightmare for a little while and solve a bunch of Night Elf problems. How's that sound? Hey, here's a city. It's kind of tangentially tied to the Legion, but you're not going to really see any demons there. There's a few. They'll see you when you're stealth and it'll be annoying as shit. But go ahead and just hang out there. There's that. And now go around, and if you could, oh, here's some Tauren. You like Tauren, right? Well, we're going to kill a bunch of them in a real grisly manner and make you feel uncomfortable with yourself. What do you think of that? Oh, okay, we're gonna putz around a bit more and do more, and oh, the Legion's back. Like, there was this huge lull where I was like, we're doing a demon invasion, right? Now, I'm glad that there were nothing but demons to fight and it wasn't all green expansion all the time. I will say that. Like, I think this expansion was good, but if you're going to try and tell me that the Legion in this expansion was not the equivalent of Deathwing, where it's like, big threat, oh, and then it's gone for an entire expansion, and then it's back. No, I think they're exactly the same.
But at the same time, now that the Legion is back and they're a threat, you're wanting the other stories.
Yeah, because they introduced those stories to me. Like, if you're going to introduce all the hanging threads, you can't be annoyed at me for wanting to know how they resolve. Like, they did that. They chose to tell the Greymane Sylvanas story right now. I didn't make them, but they introduced that story, and yes, now I want resolution to it, or at least progression to it. And I don't think that's weird of me. If you're going to say, like, hey, we're going to start this story, and then we're going to ignore it for the entire expansion, that does become frustrating. And yes, there are more pressing issues with the Legion, sure, but maybe that shouldn't have been introduced as a story element if you weren't going to thematically go back to it.
Yeah, but I tend to think that that's how they tell the stories in every expansion, though. I mean, I look at Wrath. Like, in the middle of trying to hunt down Arthas and destroy the Lich King, we went on a magical adventure where we fought cosmic robots and then ladies made of stone. I think this has always been something that they do where they just kind of go, I mean, look at Mists of Pandaria. It's like, oh, let's do Throne of the Thunder King in the middle of an expansion that's supposed to be about defeating this Shah energy corruption thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of what they do. And I feel like what they do with the first patch is they say, here are the significant players. You're going to go on a journey. And instead of just following those significant players consistently throughout, they give you a lot of twists and turns. And at the very end, they bring back those players for the final raid or whatever it is. And you kind of you're going along the raid, and there's Sylvanas, if you're on the Horde, kind of walking behind you going, champions, bleepity bloppity bloop. And that's just kind of how they've kind of structured their storytelling. It's to know the formula doesn't mean that it isn't any less effective, because having a formula is fine as long as you execute well within that formula to deliver something awesome. Then players aren't going to really care.
Yeah, and they will hopefully in this expansion close a lot of those threads and move on to the next bit of story. That's something I'm really looking forward to with the next expansion, because the leveling experience is still the best this game has to offer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say this too. I'm actually okay with them not tying up the threads. Like, let me be clear about where my primary issue is. It isn't that they introduced a bunch of threads that are left hanging, because like Mick said, we're getting to some serious, like, end of World of Warcraft storytelling here. Like, we are wiping out some of the biggest names when it comes to bad guys. Short of old gods, I have a hard time thinking of things much bigger than wiping out the Legion that we could do right now. So yeah. I'm okay with them introducing compelling new stories that they can tell down the line. But whether it's the Sylvanas Greymane story or the Legion invasion story or Illidan's story, whatever story they want to tell, I just want to feel like that story content is coming at a regular pace. And the problem is it comes very fast and furious at the beginning. And then once you get to that end game, I understand that there's going to be grinding and bits and pieces here, but I feel like it has slowed to a exceptionally small trickle. And it's, as I said, a compliment and a negative all at the same time, because I wouldn't care if it wasn't so good. But because it's so good, I care a lot.
So it's an episode of Full House. We started with the B story, which you really got into, but now we're just on the A story for a long time.
Yeah. WoW is an episode of Full House, Ben.
Okay.
The pinnacle of storytelling.
I'm just going off of the fact that I know you enjoy Fuller House.
Hey.
I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying that you said you liked Fuller House.
I did not say it was the pinnacle of storytelling.
I never said it was either.
But it is the pinnacle of storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows that. It
The
doesn't have
story
to
of
be
Fuller
said.
House is the story of life. All things trickle back to Fuller House.
Uncle Jesse is my spirit animal.
That's correct.
Well, Mick, thank you very much for joining us. It has been an absolute blast talking to you again, and I'm so glad to have you in the seat at the round table.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun to chat and talk about World of Warcraft and the never-ending saga of how players feel about it and how the game actually delivers really solid content, year after year.
Exactly. So where can people find you? What are you doing? What have you been up to? Anything new?
Well, there's not a lot of things that are new. Well, that's not true. There's something new that is happening. I actually haven't even announced it yet. So if those folks who are in the chat room tonight are hearing this for the very first time, but I'm going to be doing a brand new podcast, which is going to be debuting this Friday, April 28th. You'll be able to grab you'll be able to go and find the pilot episode, or if you go to dadbeards.com, that'll take you to our RSS feed for this brand new podcast I'm doing called The Dad Beards, which is basically a show where myself and my co-host Chris Topham, we just kind of sit down and talk about everything and anything nerd culture, anything that kind of crosses our eyes that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about on that show. So it's a brand new podcast from Spazbot Studios, which I'm excited about because I haven't launched a new podcast in a long time. So we're excited about it. We think we've got something really kind of fun to engage in. And sometimes I've been asked this before by some of the other folks at Spazbot. Do you have to be a dad and have to be a beard to be on the show? And the answer to that is no. It's just the two hosts happen to be dads and happen to have beards. So we're looking forward to getting feedback from folks on the show. Like I said, you can check it out at dadbeards.com. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/thedadbeards.
Very cool. And your personal account?
You can follow me over on Twitter at Mick Montgomery, and I do have a website you can check out called mickmontgomery.com. For information on all the other shows that we still produce at Spazbot Studios, head on over to spazbotstudios.com. All
right. John, what about you? Where can people find you?
If you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at John_Jagger. If you want to hear another show with me on it, you can check out Core, which is the Heroes of the Storm podcast I do, part of the Frog Pants Network, and you can find out more information about that at heroesforyou.com. Ben.
Yes?
Where can people find more of you?
Well, the best thing to do is actually follow me on Twitter. I am at Ben the Mage. I had to pause for a second there because apparently I forgot. I am also on a show called Battle Pets with Eludra. Well, the show's not called Battle Pets with Eludra. It's called Battle Pets. It's with Eludra. We talk about battle pets.
She really took it to an interesting place that in no way alienates you at all from the title.
Battle Pets with Eludra and sometimes Ben. But I'm always there. And then also I'm on the latest or the newest episode of Rolling Restart with Ro. We talk about, battle pets, actually. It's a fun episode. I enjoyed it anyway. Hope Ro did too. But this show, however, Azeroth Roundtable, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT. All of our episodes are on AzerothRoundtable.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher. Send us some 5-star reviews. I haven't looked lately, but I hope to see a whole ton of them when I go back. If you have any questions, comments, want to tell us what you think would be awesome to pop up and sprout out in the middle of an expansion, send those to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com because we'd love to hear about them. Other than that, though, Mick, thank you again for joining us. John, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And chat room, you've been fantastic.
Hi, everybody. John here at the end of the show because I always forget that I have stuff to do at the end of the show. But here I am, remembering. And you know what you can do to help the show, to help my memory? You can throw money at me because nothing jogs a memory quite like being pelted by dollar bills, y'all. So head on over to patreon.com/AzerothRT, where you can become a patron of this fine podcast, because it might shock you, Taco Bell did not sponsor this episode.
What?
I know. I was surprised too. That's patreon.com/AzerothRT.
Join today. I don't know.
We appreciate your contribution to the ad for Patreon, Ben.
Yay. All right, and that's a podcast.
That's podcast.
Podcast.
It was done. We did a thing.
Yay. And I would love to stay and chat, but guys, I have to get ready and pack and show my sister how to give a cat a pill.
Ugh.
Oh God, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, that sounds like a real nightmare.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stream, thank you. You've been wonderful. You've been beautiful, and we will miss you greatly. You all have a good night. Goodbye.